Hello, Shubham.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Shubham, can you tell me something about your city of Raxol?
Ma'am, Raxol is my birthplace. It is the district headquarters of the East Champaran district, along with Motihari, which is also the Motihari is another important district. Raxol is very significant for India as it's a very important terminal to the country of Nepal. And Nepal, being that the Raxol and Nepal has had civilizational history from the place, and it has been a major source of transit of goods as in people. And other than that, the district itself falls in an aspirational district category. However, it has been doing well in the past couple of years, ma'am.
Okay. Champaran, the significance of Champaran is with Satyagraha that was led by Gandhiji, but is there any other significance of Champaran that you can think of?
Ma'am, the Gandhiji Satyagraha, Champaran Satyagraha is an highlight of the political history of the place. However, I cannot recall any other major incident in history.
Okay. Can you recall any Buddhist stupa located near Champaran? Are you aware about it?
No, ma'am, I cannot recall one.
Okay, so there is a Buddhist stupa which is located in Kesaria near Motihari, and it is known to be the largest Buddhist stupa in the world. So this
Thank
fact
you
can
for
probably
pointing that out, ma'am. I'll actually keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. What was the major crop of Champaran, Shubham, in the history?
Ma'am, indigo was a major crop. Other than that, the region was noted for growing cotton and rice and pulses, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. And when you talk about indigo, do you think indigo is utilized even in today's time? Like at that period of time, it was utilized. But what about today? Which are the different, you can say, sectors probably which use indigo even today?
Ma'am, the relevance of indigo in today's world has gone down a bit, mainly because the crop has been substituted with artificial inks. And primarily as an ink, indigo is used in the painting and in developing paints. It is also used in acrylic development, and some variants of indigos are also used for, like, I remember coming across this advertisement of Ujala, like the indigo liquid based liquid, which is used in cleaning as well. So these are a couple of uses of the chemical that I can recall now.
Okay. So indigo is also used in cosmetics. For example, if people who have certain kind of skin allergies and they cannot apply the regular hair dyes, they can utilize indigo-based hair dyes, which are organic dyes, and they're very effective because they do not cause any kind of harm or skin allergy. So it is very much effective, and medication purpose is also there.
Thank you. I'll keep that in mind.
Yes. Can you tell me about something about Bihar? The state of Bihar. What are the famous places that are there in Bihar?
Ma'am, Bihar in itself is a very beautiful state. We have major cities like Patna, and at the same time, the rural hinterland of Bihar is probably one of the most scenic in the country. Few major places would be Nalanda, and then Rajgir. Then Patna itself is an iconic place, Gaya, and like these are a couple of places that come to my mind.
What do you know about Nalanda? What is the historical relevance of Nalanda?
Ma'am, Nalanda was the seat of the historic Nalanda University that had been in existence for over 500 years, and it existed almost around thousands of years back. Very recently, the government of India has reinvigorated a project on developing the University of Nalanda on modern lines, redeveloping the university on modern lines. And it is also an important center of Buddhist literature and Buddhist learning. So it occupies a very important place in our politico-cultural history, ma'am.
Politico-cultural. How do you say political history when you talk about Buddhism here?
Because Nalanda as a place in itself was a point of contact wherein Buddhist scholars from different parts of Asia visited and learned. Like Fahin was himself one of the scholars who visited Nalanda. On top of that, the university in Nalanda received royal patronage, and the Pala kings were one of them. And so, like, we can also, apart from the cultural aspect of it, it also holds an important political aspect, ma'am.
Okay.
So, carrying on Bihar, you said Bihar is a very beautiful state, and just now you have empowered us on history of Bihar. So, can you tell 5 reasons why Bihar is still in empowered group of states, like backward states?
So there are multiple reasons why Bihar hasn't been able to grow economically. The biggest reason would be the colonial apathy, especially after the War of 1857. The British choose to neglect the growth of Bihar in as a sub-province in West Bengal. The second major reason would after independence would be the skewed pattern of development, wherein some states, some states like some states were seen as better prospect states like the Maharashtra and the southern states, wherein states like Bihar weren't witnessed with welcomed with same level of enthusiasm. Third would be a sense of a political apathy in the ruling class, and this was something that actually kept the state down for a long time. Another major reason why Bihar hasn't been able to grow was the frequent outflux of the human capital from the state to especially to other states wherein the people of Bihar have contributed to the growth of the other states in various forms and capacities. And the fifth reason why I feel is that the lack of infrastructure spending by the state for very long periods of time. So these are the reasons. Another important highlight would be the loss of mineral-rich Jharkhand in 2000. So these are a couple of reasons why I feel Bihar has not been able to live up to its socioeconomic potential.
Yeah, so totally agree. And this 5 6 reasons you have told is basically because of political apathy. I think political apathy as well as lack of law and order is the main reason. What's the main reason, right? So you should like focus on law and order issues. Okay? On your side.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. What do you suggest for the development of Bihar, state of Bihar?
For the state of Bihar, there are a couple of things that come to my mind. One important thing would be the revitalization of agriculture and development of village-based industries. This could be in the primary sector and then in the secondary sector. This would it would help in creating employment and self-sufficiency. Next important state would be upgradation of the status of many second or third tier towns. Like Patna stands as the only major city in the state, whereas there are other places like Gaya and then Darbhanga that have potential to become major towns, if not major cities and major towns as well. So this can be done. And thirdly, I feel that a program of action and education policy wherein the focus is on retaining the talent that Bihar produces or attracting the talent that Bihar has lost. So that would be the major thing. And the fourth thing which has been implemented in parts is an improvement in law and order. There has been a general improvement in the past couple of years, but then at the same time, we need to ensure that the progress is being upheld and boosted even further. And one last reason that I would say is improvement of the education sector, sir. Like Bihar needs a better system of education, and the education must be standardized, the quality of teachers, the quality of rural schools, and scope of research and all can be boosted, ma'am. So these are the couple of points that I can suggest for improvement in status of Bihar.
Can you enlist some of the impacts of Russia-Ukraine war on India?
So Russia-Ukraine war has had a couple of positive as well as negative impacts on us. First, if I were to outline the negative impact, there has been a global discontent in the financial markets because of a crisis, due to which there has been a flight of capital, which has further been exaggerated by the US Federal Reserve hiking its interest rates. So this has actually like affected our stock markets and our financial sector. So apart from that, sir, we see that Russia and Ukraine have been an input for many critical components. For example, heavy machinery from Russia, and like the alcohol, beer manufacturing plants have been affected because of the inputs from Ukraine stopped. So these are two places. And then we see the global supply chains are being disrupted, which has had some impact on Indian setups. And with respect to the positive impacts, I see that India has emerged as a very powerful voice in the global international arena, wherein different countries are looking forward to India for eliciting a response. At the same time, India sees it as an opportunity to fill up vacant spots and capture more open positions in the international trade market. For example, the recent, like our Honorable Prime Minister PM Modi had in WTO talked about India having the ability to feed the world, and following which Egypt actually has signed a pact for purchase of grains. So this is something that India can actually do. And the third reason, which hasn't affected India that much, but has had a major bearing, was the realization that India needs to be Atmanirbhar. There needs to be a sense of local, domestic-based manufacturing. So these are a couple of negatives and positives that the crisis has had effect on India. So
Good. Okay. Can you tell like some of the current significance of Gujarat Doctrine?
the Gujarat Doctrine was a vision produced by our former Prime Minister, Mr. Indra Kumar Gujral. This was in relation to our neighboring states, and it's still a very important part of our foreign policy. One of the major points that he put forward was the principle of non-reciprocity, wherein India's actions towards its weaker neighbors or smaller neighbors must not be in lines of an expectation of a return. And this has been very important. For example, the Sri Lankan crisis provides us an opportunity to implement Gujarat Doctrine in the real politics sense. And we have helped Bhutan, we have helped Bangladesh, Nepal, and even Maldives, like following this doctrine. So the relevance of this has been pretty much solid, and the current geopolitical crisis in the different parts of the world actually affirms the significance of it. So
Maniman?
Shubham, I can see that your mother is a housewife. I would like to ask you about what do you think about the notion of women empowerment when we talk about? Is it just about feminism, or how do you see empowerment? Can you differentiate between both of these things, empowerment and feminism?
ma'am, feminism in its simplest sense is a political movement or a socio-political movement wherein the proponents of the movement have actually vouched for equal rights for men and women, or the rights of women and at the same level as those of men. Whereas in sense of empowerment, we are actually recognizing the fact that a section, for example, we're talking about women here, women have actually been unequally benefited from the benefits that have been accrued to the society, and hence we are creating a sense of affirmative action that would actually help them scale that gap. So this is what. So I believe that feminism is an important tool of achieving empowerment. However, it is not the only tool that would lead to empowerment. Like affirmative social action, change in mindset, and then public expenditure, private expenditure would be other means to achieve or of achieving women empowerment, if you have to talk about it.
What is your stance on dual career families? Nowadays, women are expected to work outside and at the same time handle the family as well. But such expectations are not done from the men. What do you have to say about it?
Ma'am, it is an unfortunate fact that even in this the third decade of the 21st century, there exists a gender gap. So we are living in a gendered society. So dual career options must be implemented for men as well. We are in talks of a system of paternity leaves on the line of maternity leaves, wherein men can actually take up responsibilities of child rearing.
Any example? Any famous example of paternity leave recently?
I remember Virat Kohli taking a couple of months off from the cricket team at the birth of his daughter. So this is a very prominent example that I can recall.
Very good. It's actually very empowering example when people are looking up to a sports player, like Virat Kohli, and people like them do like this. So probably society gets a very good message. All right. So your father belongs to Uttar Pradesh, and your mother belongs to Bihar. So is it an arranged marriage or a love marriage? What do you have to say about? First of all, let me know: is it an arranged marriage or love marriage?
It is an arranged marriage that when like almost every arranged marriage, love blossomed after the marriage. So primarily, prima facie, it is an arranged marriage.
Okay. So what are your views on love marriages that are increasing, and also the rate of divorces that are increasing with this? So what do you have to say about it?
Ma'am, in the 21st century, and even as our Supreme Court has pointed, the right to marry, it comes under Article 21 and under the right to life, right to live like personal liberty. So this is something that can be welcomed. It depends on the perspective of the person. Like for someone who's open to marrying out of his love, so it's absolutely on the choice of the person. Like one cannot actually ask other to not to marry out of his love, and at the same time one cannot actually force someone to marry out of their parents' choice or the societal choices. So marriage, I believe, is very much an individual choice. And about the rate of divorce, we see that generally societies, when they have moved from an arranged system to an open system of a marriage, there has been a spike in the divorce rates. However, the love marriage or the arranged marriage is not the only factor that governs the rise of divorce rates. There are many other factors. For example, the feminization of the workforce, then increasing women literacy, then a female labor force participation, especially in the blue collar jobs. So there are a lot of factors which governs the divorce rate of a society or of a country. Love marriages or the number of love marriages is also one of them.
You just said blue collar jobs and female labor force participation. So you think that women empowerment is leading to divorce cases? Do you have to say that? Are you trying to say that?
No, ma'am. I do not intend on saying that women getting empowered, women getting into jobs is causing them to undergo divorces. What I intend on saying is that with greater economic independence, with greater source of decision making, women are actually more in control of their lives, and this has actually led women to come out of marriages where they have been where they could not have come off if they were not this at the same financial or an economic independence level. So this is what I try and imply, what I'm trying to imply.
Okay, Shubham. So let us say that you become a district administrator. You are a district administrator, and you've been given this. There's this problem that has just arisen there about an interreligious marriage, wherein there are a lot of issues with respect to the couple that is involved, and they really want to get married, but the families are not very much convinced, and the society is also trying to create a problem between them because their religion is different and they belong to different states, for example. So, what do you have to say? How would you solve such an issue where societies get involved in, different religious groups can also get into some communal issues can also rise? Then, how will you solve such an issue if it comes in front of you?
Yes, ma'am. So marriage, as I said, is a very much individual choice. However, man is a social animal, so many of his or her decisions are to be taken in the foundation of a society. And at the same time, we see that the Honorable Supreme Court, as I've said, pointed out that marriage is itself a very fundamental right to life. So under a scenario wherein such an interfaith marriage happens, my plan of action would be as follows. The first thing would be that I would actually try to ensure that the people get adequate security. The couple, the male and the female, the boy and the girl get adequate security, so that under any circumstances their lives their lives of their families are not at any sort of risk. My second step of action would be talking to society leaders or they're talking to the religious leaders, bringing them on a common platform or a platform for unity, wherein common issues can be discussed and brought forward or pushed forward. The third would be creating a sensitization among the public, wherein such happenings with the passage of time must be brought to an acceptance level of normality. And the fourth level, like as you pointed out, there are chances that things might get a bit commonly tense. I would ensure that adequate police protection is being provided. I'll cooperate with the district police mechanism just to ensure that though no riot mechanisms come into picture and no scene of rioting or anything like that we help. And at the very same time, I will actually ask my seniors for help and guidance on to how as to solve such a case if my predecessors have faced any such problem. So my combination, my action plan on such an event would imply a combination of uh, progressive actions as well as actions based on security of the couple and the people around them.
Over to you, sir.
Shubham, I have some questions. India generates a lot of waste, right? So what are India's challenges in waste management?
So there are a couple of challenges that India faces with regards to waste management. One of them would be low recovery despite the high potential, like of around 10 or 11%, where as the potential stands at around 60 to 65%. So this is an area that needs working. Apart from that, there are a couple of aspects like conversion of waste to energy, which has been adopted in countries like the Sweden and the Nordic countries, but then this concept is missing in India. So this can also be thought of a good way forward. And the third would be the lack of citizen consciousness and the lack of citizen apathy towards waste management. Waste management is not being taught. Waste management is more like being taught as a formal procedure and not being taught as a way of life. And this is very ironical in a country of that belongs to like has Gandhiji as one of its icons. And lastly, we need adequate public. The country lacks effective public expenditure or infrastructure in the field of waste management and concerning technologies like waste to energy, waste to materials. So these are the few challenges that waste management ecosystem has in India.
Okay. So what does it mean by plogging?
So plogging is a fitness activity which combines jogging with picking up litter.
How do you promote habit of plogging in general public if you're an officer?
So one of the biggest ways in which plogging can be promoted is by the officer himself. Like every few days, like let's say on a public holiday or on an off day, a plogging run can be organized by the member of the local administration. This can be done by involving the local local NGOs and the civil society and citizens. Then plogging clubs can be introduced in schools and in colleges, and good like ploggers who have actually contributed to cleaning up of the local area can actually be rewarded publicly for their effort. Sorry. And then there must be an information, education, and communication IEC campaign that can be run with respect to promoting plogging as a hobby among youth. So these are a couple of pointers.
So, Shubham, can you tell me about the cultural differences that exist in the East and the mainland India?
There are certain cultural differences that exist between the East and the mainland India. If I were to talk about East, I would be talking about the East India, right, ma'am? So one of the major reasons would be the diet, whereas in the East regions are heavily dependent on non-vegetarian food. The mainland and the central parts of the India are relatively low on the consumption of non-vegetarian food, especially in certain pockets and during certain times of the month. And on top of that, like there is a difference between the like clothes that are being worn because of the because of the climatic differences. And then another major difference would be the food habits. Like East is mainly dominated by rice, is a system of crops which influences the consumption pattern,
Which
whereas the
type of
West,
rice is consumed in the eastern states?
ma'am, there's a variety of rice which is being grown and consumed. Like it can be the medium grain, or like it mostly it is medium to long grain, but in certain places short grains are also being consumed. Like, and then there are different grades of rice which from Mogra to Gobindobhog. So these are, and then basmati is also grown in places, but then basmati is more of an export grade rice than a local consumption base.
What is the difference between black rice, basmati rice, and red rice?
I'm unaware about black and red rice, but I know for sure that basmati rice is mainly an export grade rice.
It's a form of glutinous rice, also called as forbidden rice. It's more expensive and also a little heavier in comparison to the other rice types.
Thank you,
And what about red rice?
I have no clue about red rice as well.
Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Not an issue. All right. So now I want to take you to your achievements. You've been a very bright student. Tell me something about your experience at in engineering at Birla Institute of Technology.
At BITS Pilani, I was enrolled in the BE honors program of the manufacturing engineering. It was offered by the Department of Mechanical Engineering, but the courses were a bit different from the core BE honors mechanical engineering. As a manufacturing engineering student, we had a couple of courses from the core mechanical aspects, whereas a couple of courses we had overlapping with the operations management of the MBA division. So the prominent courses that I remember doing are supply chain management, lean manufacturing, manufacturing management, and then we had a couple of compulsory courses from the humanities department that we had to pursue. And as an engineering honor student, I chose to pursue an undergraduate thesis in my final year. And my topic of my thesis was on waste management in steel supply chain. And BITS Pilani has been very academically very rewarding for me, and I'm glad that I've been to that place. So I actually hold that place very dear.
Waste management and steel technology, right?
Steel supply chain.
Steel supply chain. So how do you do that? Like, how do you manage waste in steel supply chain? What are different steps? If you can just tell me 2-3 methods.
Ma'am, my undergraduate thesis was an analytical study of the waste management and steel supply chain. So for the purpose of simplification of study, we decided to bifurcate the steel supply chain into 3 major heads: pre-transportation, pre-production, production, and post-production. So the pre-production had 2 stages: pre-transportation and transportation. The production had the core factory operations, which wasn't the major focus of the research, because I was coming from someone from manufacturing perspective, we had more owners on the supply chain side of things. And the post-transportation phase was a single phase, post-production or post-transportation. So the main methods that we used were time value analysis and like value addition. Then we had lean production systems, wherein then application of lean production systems in the supply chains and integration. Then I remember a paper on Six Sigma in the production process being conducted. So these were a couple of key technologies. PERT CPM was also another method that was used in the operation. So these are a couple of steps that we took.
All right. So you're fond of football.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you find the most interesting thing about the sport, football? Like, how do you think that it actually inspires you in your real life or has transformed something in you and in your personality?
Football is a very unique game, given in the sense that it's a very much of a team game, but there are times when an individual brilliance can turn things around. Like I have mentioned, my FC Barcelona is my favorite team that I follow. And the reason why I followed FC Barcelona is because of this very philosophy. FC Barcelona played this unique style of football called Tiki Taka, which was very much team dependent. But at the same time, there were flashes of individual brilliance from exceptional players like Lionel Messi or Xavi Hernandez, Andres Iniesta, which could actually transform the way the game is being moved. So it actually aspires me to be a good civil servant, wherein I need to take a good team along. I need to work with a team or work with multiple teams at a district level or at a policy level. But at the same time, my own individual acumen comes into play, and my individual acumen and my individual skills can often be the deciding factor between a good administrator and a great administrator.
All right. You've been a part of anti-ragging committee. What are the different things that you feel? What are the psychological impacts of ragging that can have a lasting impact on a person's personality?
There are multiple psychological impacts that ragging can induce on a kid's mental framework. To outline a couple of them. The first
only two would be okay. Just
fine. The first one would be an innate fear of interaction that would actually stay with him for a very long time and would need special counseling for it to go away. And the second would be a sense of superiority and an inferiority that would be placed in a student, and that this actually carries on with him, and then the student rags another junior of his, and then this vicious cycle continues, vicious chain of command continues. So these are the two key psychological impacts that ragging can usher.
All right, Shubham, I'm done with my questions. So do you have any questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
No, I'm done.
Thank you, sir.